A webinar on research ethics and methodology. Resource person Dr. K. Kaviarasu, Assistant Professor of English, Vivekananda College, Agasthiswaram, Kanyakumari. Organized by Department of English, GTN Arts College, Dindigul on 1st June 2020.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Research Ethics and Methodology. Myself, A. Bilal Ahmed, Assistant Professor and Head Department of English SSC Wing. On the behalf of GTN Group of Institutions and its Secretary, Lion Dr. K. Rathinam, Director, Mr. Durai, Principal Dr. P. Balagurusamy Sir, Academic Director Dr. N. Markandayan Sir, and Vice Principals Dr. R. Chakravarti Sir, aided, and Dr. U. Nadarajan Sir, SSC, faculty friends of UG Department of English, and my own behalf. I welcome today's resource person, Dr. K. Kaviarasu Sir, in our midst. And I would like to welcome learned professors, research scholars, and students from various institutions. I would like to take few more minutes before the session to introduce today's valued invited chief guest, Dr. K. Kaviarasu Sir. He has 14 years of experience in teaching English. He is a recipient of Best Young Researcher Award 3 times and Green Ambassador Award 1 time. He has authored 12 books and got his 72 research papers published in many reputed journals. He has been to Nepal and Malaysia as a resource person. Apart from that, he has been a steering committee member of NAC, been IQC NIRF core committee member in his college. With these few words, I recede and hand the session over to Dr. Kaviarasu sir. Thank you, one and all. Kaviarasu sir, it's all yours.
Good morning, one and all. I'm happy to get connected with you this fine morning as we slowly get recovered from the pandemic. I thank the organizers, Mr. A. Bilal Ahmed, Head the Department of English, the management of GTN College, and my well-wishers for involving me in this webinar. The topic of this day, research ethics and methodology, is chosen to disseminate the ethical values in research. Before starting the session, I wish to declare that the session focuses on methodology to carry out the ethical research and not much on the traditional research methodology. Anyhow, I have a few things on the traditional research methodology also. So with this note, I think we can get into the session. Research is constituted of various questions, and at times research itself may become a big question for some. Any research or any researcher should know the answer for the questions what, why, and how of the research. When you ask what is research, according to Hampshire College, a wonderful definition is given, though we have various definitions. Research is a creative and systematic investigation that involves collection of data, documentation of critical information, and analysis and interpretation of the data or information in accordance with suitable methodologies. So methodology is part and parcel of research. And when you ask, why do you undertake research? Some people say that they do research to get a PG or a PhD degree. And some say that they do research to tap funds from agencies like UGC, CSIR, DBT, DST, and other national and international organizations. Some say that they want to expand the network of research collaboration. And some do it to get the intellectual joy of doing some creative work. But what happens? Most of these people do their research just for the sake of conducting the research. On the other hand, actually, a research should be undertaken to make yourself well informed. This is something which is missing in many researches. It's also carried out to verify and test established facts, to research and reach new conclusions, to find the solutions to unsolved scientific, non-scientific, and social problems. Above all, this should contribute something to the betterment of humanity and society. How to do research? There are various methods of doing research. In a nutshell, basically, research is classified into three categories in the modern context. Primary research, otherwise called as pure research or fundamental research, which is a first-hand investigation, which always answers the question, why things happen. The secondary research, otherwise called as action research or applied research, is based on others' findings. This type of research enlightens us on how things happen. For instance, we can find almost all the literary researchers nowadays are focusing on this kind of secondary research or applied research. We take some theory and we apply it on a text, and we try to evaluate how things are just evolving and what is the output. The tertiary research, or the most recent and popular plagiarism, is carried out by stealing another author's thoughts. So this is the third kind of research which is getting more viral nowadays among the student community. Even I had a bitter experience. One of my students in his PG, he submitted his project report. He submitted the first draft. The first draft itself was complete, and I just got the soft copy of that. And usually I used to check all my papers, my research scholars papers with Turnitin software. And I was shocked to see it was 100% plagiarized. He just lifted one chapter from PhD thesis in Flipnet, and he made it a project. But the more pathetic thing is that that chapter itself is plagiarized from somewhere else. This is something which I found when just I checked with the Turnitin software. So let us come to the literary research. So when you take literary research is mostly quantitative nowadays, instead of qualitative. And mixed methodology is getting popular in literary and social researches. Whereas in olden days, the scientific research was only quantitative. But in the recent days, literary research is also getting quantitative instead of qualitative. Now, where does this ethics come from? What is this ethics? What is the relevance of ethics to this research? Does research need some ethic to undergo? When you just probe into the etymology of this word ethics, you find the word ethics is derived from the Greek ethos, which has evolved further into ethikos, which means a custom or a character or a belief that pervades a community. So ethics are moral principles that govern a person's behavior in a community. So I just want to emphasize that it is behavior in a community. And it may be right or wrong, and it may vary from person, place, and time, because it varies depending on the community itself. When I belong to a particular community today, and tomorrow when I move on to another community, or if I happen to travel to another community or travel to another location where we find another different set of community, the ethics changes. But in research, it is not the case. The research ethics can never change. Research ethics focuses on incorporating ethical principles into research practices. Of course, it is very difficult to balance between the principles and practices, and this results in ethical violations also. You can find ethical violations of research taking place in authorship, manuscripts, and even in publications. And when you probe into the ethical violations in research, we find various entities as chief factors. Inappropriate methodology, where the researcher, he or she for that matter, uses invalid tools or sampling. And because of this, what happens? The research becomes subjective and it becomes biased. No research should be subjective. Research should be always objective. And the objectivity itself is a debatable concept. At times, there is a lack of relevance to research question in research even. Yes, we start the research, and of course, it takes us away, as this truth has driven me away from the mainstream, and the researcher also gets deviated from the mainstream, and finally they become distant from the research question when they just reach the conclusion. And faulty data gathering procedures, it plays a vital role in the violation of ethics in research. What happens? Selective reporting and misrepresentation of data also draw wrong conclusion. It is the prime duty of the researcher to stay away from FFP, that is falsification, fabrication, and plagiarism. Falsification takes place when someone derives a conclusion changing or omitting data or results according to their convenience. Fabrication is the misrepresentation of research results by making up data, cooking data. So I have never made a research, but or made a study. I have never visited a village. I have never taken any data, but what I do is I cook data, or I just write a research paper or a thesis even, as if imagining that I have done everything. And I also sometimes create fake this data. And the last is the plagiarism. Plagiarism is the appropriation, or rather misappropriation of another person's ideas, processes, results, or words without giving appropriate credits. So this is the shameful activity which we find nowadays, and I'll talk about plagiarism later also. And you can find there is another concept of redundant publications and authorship issues. Yes, so this also we will discuss authorship issues. And you can find, see, redundant publication. Redundant publication happens when I feel that I want to increase the number of my publications. So what I do, I publish the paper, and after 2 years, once again, I publish it somewhere else, and I do it somewhere else. So this is how many people, they just increase their publication. And now that the standard scholarly journals have come out with some mechanism to filter these, and only because of that people are able to identify these redundant publications. To come about the ethical violations in authorships, I just would like to introduce you two terms: ghost author and gift author. Ghost author means not giving authorship to those who have made significant intellectual contribution. Gift author is the authorship given to those who have not made significant intellectual contributions. I hope many of you would have a kind of burning sensation when you just listen to these two terms. Many a times you do contribute a lot, but your name is not mentioned. Or sometimes you might have worked a lot, but someone who has not worked get the credits. Not only with research, it happens everywhere, but this should be taken care. And so this is unethical. And so I bring it to your notice. And there are some people who refuse to take the public responsibility of the study. Right? See, I have written, I have published, and if there is any consequences, I have to be ready to face. So they are not authors at all who are not ready to face the public responsibility of the study. And authorship credit should be based only on substantial intellectual contribution to planning, designing, acquiring data, analyzing, or interpreting data. So you can share the authorship with anyone who involves in any of these activity. Okay, if anyone gives some idea, you can include their name also. But see that the person involved in the drafting of the article or revising it critically. Sometimes we always bother. See, why should I include my guide's name? Yes, this is what many people question. See, a guide just like that goes through the paper. Why should I include my guide's name? Okay, and a guide should revise the article. Right. So it is the intellectual contribution which he or she holds in research publication, so they deserve their name. And also they should approve the final version of the publication. Right. I write something, I send it to my guide, and my guide publishes it. Is it ethical? No. Because you can find even after the guide's correction, I have to know what is the correction made, and I have to know the changes, and if there is some changes which I want to make, I have the rights to suggest or discuss with my guide and bring the change. Okay, and so before publishing the work, all the authors should approve the manuscript. That is very important, and that is not in the practice nowadays in many of them. And to talk about the first author and the corresponding author, if you take the standard journals, what they suggest is the first author normally can be research scholar or the person who in the research forum I am talking. Research scholars would be the first author, and the corresponding author should be the research supervisor or the senior person. That is what they say. because they are accountable. Okay, they are accountable because any kind of correspondence take place with them only. Okay, and both the authors, as I said, should be responsible for the study, because you find when one author says that, see, I am not, or I'm not willing to accept this perspective, or this is not my perspective, then that publication will get invalid. Okay, so you have to be very careful, and whenever you seek any kind of research collaborators, see that they are like-minded and everyone approve the publication. And when writing the manuscripts also, various ethical violations take place. It is a sorry state that the violation takes place here too. Half truth is more dangerous. Yes, there are some people who are not ready to reveal the full process of their research, and they give or they justify, telling this and that, telling that, see, I have worked hard, and see, why should I tell them the secret? Okay, yes, of course. There is a proper methodology, there is a proper or that a channel or mode to publish this. If you feel that you have discovered something, you have invented something, or you have proposed something new, okay, well and good. Before publishing it, you have to apply for patentship, and it is very difficult. It is not very difficult. It is very simple nowadays, applying this patentship. And what happens after applying that, getting the patent, you publish the paper. Okay. So if anyone uses your concept, then they definitely should acknowledge you. Okay. So it is unethical to hide information in research publication. Some researchers intentionally hide crucial information or alter data to make false statements. So others should not understand, they should get confused. So they use crucial, they modify some important data, and some crucial information would be modified. And some misquote others' works. This is another unethical practice. See, it's a kind of oversight, or I'm not diligent enough to record all those works which I have referred to. Okay, so I misquote other works, and some do not quote other works, or they do not give a due recognition to the works of others also. And some give too many self-citations. That is also unethical. See, let us say that I have written a paper, and I have previously published, let us say, some 25 papers, and whether relevant or not, I never bother about that. And I cite all my previous papers here. Okay, so this is how they increased their citation also in those days. But technology has developed, and now we are also monitored, and that's a checkmate for these people, right? We will discuss that also later. Using contents, whether it is photographic or text, with patent rights without acknowledgement is a crime. Okay, many people never bother about that. Okay, so I will show that. Let us say you go to the Google and search for images, search for research, you get a number of images, beautiful images. You just pick it up and you use it in your presentation, or in your publication, or in your brochure, wherever it be. But if it is a copyrighted image, you are at risk. Okay, let us see how. So then how do I know that whether this image is copyrighted or it is free to use? You can find here in the image of search, you can find there is a tool. Okay, there is a tool option, and if you click the tool option, you can find the various ways how this or various licenses. For instance, labeled for reuse with modification, labeled for reuse, labeled for non-commercial reuse with modification, labeled for non-commercial reuse. So these are the 4 categories of images which you find in Google Images itself. And Google is working on these kind of licensing in content also. But of course, a day will come when each and every word which we use should be original. This is what I say. When you search for the plagiarism software, you can find is, that, and, all these functional words also are shown as plagiarized. So you have to be very careful in writing. So the future is very tough. We have to learn many things. And this is Creative Commons licensing. Earlier, if you want to claim that something is yours, okay, you need to go for copyright and all those. Yes, even now we do have copyrights, but to publish contents in online, okay, this Creative Commons certification is widely accepted throughout the world, where you can find these symbols, CC, and a person standing, and a dollar is cut and equal to, each means different attributes. So CC is it's a Creative Commons certification, and when a person is found, that means that author should definitely be acknowledged. And even that there is a dollar symbol which is cut, that means it is strictly prohibited for commercial use. You find various other attributes also here in Creative Commons. Okay, you can see the, just go to Google and type Creative Commons, and it is very easy to claim your work. See, you just fill these criteria, and towards the bottom of this page, you can find there is embedded link. Okay, and you can choose, you can copy that embedded link and paste in your website or your blog, or even you can copy this image with the content which includes a hyperlink below this image, and you can just paste this in your page or in your Word document also, right? When you create and when you publish it online, you can have this. Okay, for offline publication, this is not recommended. Okay. Now, sir, why should I just acknowledge? Okay, so plagiarism. Plagiarism is the tertiary research which nowadays we find undertaken by many people, as we saw. So according to Webster's Collegiate Dictionary, plagiarism is literary theft. So it is a theft. So for any theft, there is a punishment. Likewise, for plagiarism also, there is a lot of punishments. So copying or presenting another person's idea, information, expression, or entire work as one's own without permission or without due acknowledgement is considered as plagiarism. For this, there are various softwares like Turnitin, Authenticate, ET Blast, Urkund, and many open source software tools which can be helpful for you. And personally speaking, these open source softwares, you can't rely much on these open source softwares because the database limit which this open source softwares hold is very limited. Okay, so they never have the access of this paid platforms. Let us say the paid journals and the paid books, they do not have the access to those things. So it is open source because it can gather data from the open source material only. And so sometimes when you check in some open source software, you can find it shows 0% plagiarism and you'll be happy. And when you check it in Urkund, you find, oh, it is 10% plagiarism in Urkund. And when you check it and turn it in, the same thing shows 25%. And when you check it and authenticate, it shows 45%. Sir, why, sir? What is the problem here? See, authenticate is costly. To check one paper, I think you need to pay around $20 to $25 to check one research paper. Turnitin is also costly, not much costly as authenticate. And Urkund, see the cost, so Urkund, authenticate, Turnitin, they charge because they need to pay to those paid platforms. So they get the charge from us. And so we find the results are absolute here. Different types of plagiarism are here. So you can find plagiarism of authorship is called as replication, and plagiarism of words is called as copying. Plagiarism of structure, patchwork plagiarism, where I just take the whole structure and I change the content here and there and I publish. And plagiarism of ideas happened, paraphrasing. This generation is very smart. We have to be smarter than them to understand that. Okay, there are many, this is because of the technological advancement, there are many softwares which just come out with paraphrasing ideas. So just a copy and paste passage from one website to this particular paraphrasing website, and it will change the words and give you. Okay, and we are not bothered about whether it is meaningful contextually, whether those changed words are right. So it is wrong, because what they say that stealing one's idea itself plagiarism, and sometimes unintentionally we just do something, right? And that's called as incorrect quotes. See, we instead of saying let us say poetry is a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings recollected in tranquility, is instead of quoting Wordsworth, if someone quote it as Shakespeare or Robert Frost, so it is also what is that wrong? It is unintentional plagiarism. It is incorrect quote. Okay, or some people they just take the quote and they modify the quote according to them. That is also plagiarism, because you are not using as it is, word by word, line by line. Okay, and plagiarism of self. We discussed about this self-plagiarism. What is that? I have already published something, and once again I am using the same content here and claiming, see, this is my intellectual property only, and why should not I use my own ideas? No, even if it is your idea, you can never use it once again unless you acknowledge that publication. Okay, so. And the last one is a salami publication. It is a redundant publication. As we said already, it is to see what happens publishing a work, and after a few years, I once again publish it with another publisher. So this is called as a salami publication. See, this I just want to show you in Turnitin. I have a personal Turnitin account, and here you can find what happens. I just tested randomly. I checked. I took 2 articles from this from online. So see, you have to be very careful that the whole world is watching you. In one article, yeah, which has a 56% of plagiarism. Yes. See, can you imagine this article? I don't want to reveal the title and the persons. And the publisher even. That is why I just mentioned this screen. This is the report of the Turnitin page, where you can find see 56% is plagiarized. This article is published just 1 month ago. Okay, and the publication did not bother about this. And nowadays it is very sad state that if I want to publish a paper, I pay the amount and the paper get published the very next day. Okay, and most of those publishers are predatory publishers. Most of those journals are predatory journals. Okay, so in order to know this, the government has taken many measures. We will see that later. And how to avoid this plagiarism. Okay, there are two sides, two ways of avoiding this plagiarism. How? In plagiarism, of course, they say that ignorance is not a bliss. Normally, we say that ignorance is a bliss, but in research, ignorance is not a bliss or excuse, because you come to an elevated stage and now you are not ignorant, you are well informed. So as I told already, research is something to be well informed. Okay, and the Committee on Publication Ethics, COPE, describes the consequences as the public disciplinary action can be taken, administrative action can be taken, and retraction of the article will happen, and even the person will be blacklisted by the international journals. Okay, there are many articles which are retracted, and many people are blacklisted, and even many journals are being blacklisted. So we will discuss with that later. The other side, okay, you can politely avoid. Prevention is better than cure. So please avoid copy and paste. Write from your own thought. Okay, and you have to acknowledge the original sources. Sir, how do I acknowledge? See, I acknowledge. Sometimes I forget from where I have taken it. Okay, you'll see how to keep track of every source. So you have to make a note of every source which you take or refer to, even whether you are going to use or not. If you refer to some source, you have to know what that keep track of the source, and use quotation marks for word quotes in your notes. Okay, in the notes or in the in the note card, or nowadays note card is not used, and you have to use in your notes or in your word processor where you type, you have to use quotation mark for word quote. Change most of the original into your own words when you paraphrase. So even when you write itself, okay, you just rephrase it and write it in your own words. Okay, so that you just write what you understand out of that, and that is what is essential for research. Okay, but do not forget to acknowledge the original also. See, even if I paraphrase it, I have to acknowledge. Okay, I have to acknowledge that this particular idea is taken from this particular author, and cite every source you use every time you use it. This is what MLA says, that you have to cite every source you use and every time you use, and list all publishing information at the end on the works cited page or the references page or bibliography, and do not leave any publication information in this works cited or bibliography or reference. And yes, definitely you have to get permission from the copyright owner, and this can be avoided by awareness programs like this. We can have, the government has also planned to conduct many awareness programs on research ethics, and it is also promoting that. It is also funding, in fact. So you can apply for those funds through NAC or through UGC or CSIR. Okay, and the government has also introduced a course on research and publication ethics. So this is the order. In December 2019, they have made it mandatory. Okay, it is an order to create awareness about publication ethics and publication misconduct. Okay, so it is a 2-credit mandatory course, which is mandatory for the PhD scholars. Okay, And this course has a total 6 units focusing on basics of philosophy of science and ethics, research integrity and publication in ethics. And you can find hands-on sessions are designed to identify research misconducts and predatory publications. And this would be helpful for the researchers. And indexing and citation database, information about the indexing and citation database, online access or open access publications, research metrics like citation index, H index, impact factor, etc. are introduced in this course. So we will see something about that also in the next few slides. And coming to the publication ethics. Okay, when you ask the question, why do you publish? Genuinely speaking, most of them do it to increase the number of publications or to progress in their academics or career. This is what, okay, as we already said, they never bother about the outcome. And you may ask, if not this, then why to publish? It is to communicate your research findings to your stakeholders across the world. There is nothing new in this world. Everything can get modified from one form to the other. In this process of modification, there may be some lapses, some lacks, or some leads. So you have to contribute. By the way, they can identify the research gaps and know the potential areas of future research. Mostly you can see this publication comes in the last phase of the process of research, but everyone focuses on the early stage itself. When a PhD scholar starts a research, the first objective of this researcher is to publish, because the concept of publish or perish is very, very active nowadays. So, what is the significance of a quality research publication? Why should I publish quality research papers? You may ask. Apart from knowledge gathering, you can enrich your profile, academic profile internationally, and you can claim your intellectual property. Yes. So many people are earning a lot out of this. You would be considered and given preference in awards and recognitions, and it would be easy to tap research project grants from funding agencies. This is the shortcut. If you want to get any research grant from funding agencies, you do a serious research, a quality research, and publish it in quality journals. Because these funding agencies nowadays, they look for quality and not the quantity. They never look for how many papers you have published. Oh, even if it is one paper, what is the quality of that particular paper? So this is what they look for. So it also fetches credits to your institution, because we grow because of our institution. Okay. Many people say, why should I give credit to my institution? All the credits which you get is only because of the institution. Without your institutional name, when you publish anything, it will not be accepted much. Okay. And it is a kind of give and take. You give some identity to your institution and you get some identity. You give some benefits to the institution, you get some benefit from the institution. And so many times, many people never give the full details for the institutional ranking, NAR, for NAC, AQAR, whatever it be. Okay. And they always say, why should I give these details to this college? Okay. They forget that almost all the publications carry the name of the college. So it should be duly submitted to the college. So NAC is also emphasizing this. Once again, I put forth to you. publication ethics is violated. As I said, that is a kind of ethical violation in publication also by mean publication practices. Sometimes we do not have the patience. First thing happen is we submit the manuscripts in multiple publications. What happens? I should wait for a response from one publisher, and then what happens? Review process starts, and there may be first review, second review, or third review, maybe. Okay, and it may take 2 months to 6 months to 1 year for the paper to get published. Okay, we have to be patient enough, but we are not patient. So we send the same paper to multiple publishers, and finally what happens? It gets selected in 2 or 3 journals, and it gets published. Okay, so it becomes multiple publication also. And now once again, due to these technological advancements, even this is to be identified. Okay, and duplicate publications and redundant publications, we said, we spoken about this much, and self citation, yes, and publication in predatory journals, and publication in predatory journals. There is a list of predatory journals. You will see that, and there is something, as I told you, that non-publication of data itself is an ethical violation, or non-publishing. In that is, see, I have done a research and I have found something, and I have not published the same. Okay, that itself is an ethical violation. Okay, because it is not a finding for yourself, but it is a finding for the society. And when you have found something for the society or for the humanity, what happens? You have to contribute it. You have to take it. You have to publish it, and you have to take it to the next step. So when you do that, it is also once again an ethical violation. So Jeffrey Bell, many of you might have heard of this person. Else you can just go to bellslist.net. That's his website. He is a librarian, and he lists out the blacklisted journals and the predatory journals across the world. Okay, if you go and see this, you can see thousands and thousands of predatory journals are circulated around the world, which we are not aware. Even many predatory journals from India are listed here. Okay, so you'd be shocked. Please go and check this. And our UGC has also, University Grants Commission has also come out with this CARE, Consortium for Academic and Research Ethics, where earlier they had group A, B, C journals, and now they have restricted to group 1 and group 2 journals, where the group 1 journals are referred directly by the universities or through some forums, so quality research forums, which are non-scopus, which are not indexed in any international database. Probably that would be in group 1 journal, and the group 2 journals would be something based on the quality publishers like Web of Science, Elsewhere, Scopus, PubMed, and EBSCO, and you can find those journals indexed in the dictionary of directory of open access journals. So you can find these quality journals there. The list is very much available. Mostly you can find the Scopus database is of free access through this UGC portal, and UGC has also come out with this InfibNet, where you can, if you want to access those journals, you can find these databases. You can the databases and research metrics is something very important nowadays, and you can find those databases here, indexing databases, citation databases, research metrics, and we will see that in the next slides. And you can find the quality of the journal is determined by the peer review also. Okay, and peer review journals are also known as refereed journals. The research articles undergo a scrutiny and is validated by other experts in the same field. The peer review helps the publisher decide whether a work should be accepted or not. And they say there are three types of peer reviews. The first is open peer review, where both the author and the reviewer know each other. So in the open peer review process, you can know that the author knows who the reviewer is, and the reviewer also knows who the author is. And this is not of much quality. I can't say that there is much objectivity here in open peer review. And there is the next kind of peer review is a single blind peer review, where the reviewer only knows the author and the author does not know who reviews this paper. But even then, here also there is a chance of some prejudice, the valuation of a review. So than this, the last type, the third type, the double blind peer review is a process where neither the author nor the reviewer know each other. And so this kind of journal would be most reliable. Citation. Many people are bothered on citation. Citation, see, it is a kind of, once again, a kind of give and take. If you recognize others, they recognize you also. So you recognize others and they recognize you, and you cite others' papers and others also cite your papers. Citation analysis is counting the number of times the article is cited by other works to measure the impact of a publication or an author. And this DOI, Digital Object Identifier system, is a string of numbers, letters, and symbols used to permanently identify an article or document and link it on the web. See, this DOI helps your reader easily locate a document from the citation. Okay, so nowadays there are two things which are mandatory. Okay, to apply for any kind of publication, you need ARC ID. Okay, sorry, you need that ARC ID, and if only you have that ARC ID, publishers accept your paper, because in all your publications you will be having your ARC ID. So ARC, because let us say there Kaviarasu, Kaviarasu, there would be thousands of Kaviarasu, but this ARC ID, like your other ID for research, there is an ID called as ARC ID, right? And that ARC ID is something, or some say that it's Arch ID. So this ID is something important. I will share you the link of that ARC ID web page in the chat box later. Okay, and that is very important to have your research papers published. And the published paper will be having this DOI, okay, Digital Object Identifier. Okay, so these two are mandatory. And impact factor. Impact factor. See, you find in almost all these predatory journals and various other journals, you find impact factor 8.5, impact factor 9.5, impact factor 12. Okay, all these impact factors are not real impact factors. Okay, so what is impact factor? Impact factor is originally, it is Thomson Reuters who proposed this concept of impact factor. Now Thomson Reuters, the Web of Sciences is taken by this Clarivate Analytics. Okay, and they have this JCR, Journal Citation Reports impact factor. Okay, so the index, all those journals which is indexed in this JCR would get this impact factor. The impact factor of a journal is calculated by dividing the number of current year's citation to the source items published in the journals during the previous 2 years. Okay, so you find so impact factor is equal to citation of previous 2 years divided by the publication of the previous 2 years. This is the case with the impact factor. So it is done by WOS, Web of Science. Okay, and let us come here. There is something called a site score, which is similarly done by Scopus. Okay, but what happened, instead of 2 years of Web of Sciences calculation, these Scopus people for this site score take 3 years, previous 3 years calculation. Site score is calculated by the citation, the total citation of the previous 3 years divided by the total publications the previous 3 years. SJR. Citation is done with reference to the prestigious journals. See, how many of your articles are cited in prestigious journals? Okay, based on that, another kind of citation comes here. H index is calculated by the number of papers H that have been cited H times. Okay, so you can find the H index is an author level metrics that attempts to measure both the productivity and citation impact of the publication of a scholar. Okay, likewise, the G index is also there. G index would be higher than the H index, and I-10 index, once again, it is proposed by the Google Scholar. Open access publication, you have SHE, RPA, or ROMEO online resources. So you can check those. See, before publishing any paper, you can just go to there's some journal finders. Okay, Elsewhere and the Springer journals, they have this journal finder. If you are subscribed this Elsewhere or Springer, you can visit the pages, and you can find a journal finder or journal suggestion tool there, and there you have to paste your abstracts. Okay, just paste your abstract, and it will list out a list of journals which are eligible to, or which are relevant to publish these papers. Okay, and see, don't worry that see, sir, I do not have a Web of Sciences or Scopus or Elsewhere subscription because it is very costly. You go to a university library, because a library is a place which is not used by many of us. Okay, you go to the university library. Almost all the universities has the access to Web of Science and Scopus, and if not Scopus, they have the access to this Web of Science. Okay, so you can find this journal finder there. Please maintain a good rapport with the university librarian. Probably the university librarian is the nodal officer of the InfibNet, so that he can give an access to your college also. So please approach the university librarian through your college librarian, so that you can get an individual InfibNet account, institutional account, through which you can access the n number of these quality journals database, which are paid if you go in person. Okay, and I have given a list of open access journals also. Okay, there's a web link also. You can go and check. Some web links are upgraded. Okay, you can check. And since we are in want of time, I just skip this section. Okay, and I just want to say this one thing. So where does the methodology start? See, research methodology means methodology comes only. Many people think that methodology comes only towards the end. After writing everything, I have to go for a methodology check. No, it is not that. Methodology starts in the first step of selecting the area of research itself. Okay, so when you start the area, when you choose the area itself, there is also some methodology to choose area. And when you choose the author for literature, when you choose the author once again, and themes and topics. So you follow methodology is like a grammar, it is like a rule. Okay, and you have to follow that. OneNote is another tool which I recommend everyone to use. You can just whatever you copy and paste, it pastes along with the web references also. So you can use OneNote, Microsoft OneNote. You try, and we can have. Okay, and I have given another set of methodology also based on MLA Handbook 8th edition, and all these things are available in blog. And before that, some useful, these are the worldcat.org. See, there is the free plagiarism checkers, and it can be helpful for you. And once again, as I told, you can't rely on these things because of the poor quality of a database. Okay, and these websites, worldcat.org, where that you can find the catalog of almost all the books are in the world. Okay, that will be helpful for you to create this works cited, and Google Scholar, it will be helpful for you for your referencing and also indexing. And Cite Machine, Cite Fast, these two helps you to create a kind of perfect works cited or reference based on the MLA or APA or IEEE, whichever format you want, you can just create a perfect referencing. And can you be a good researcher? Is it possible? Yes, it is possible to intellectual honesty, research integrity, accuracy, responsibility, and focus on quality than quantity, and avoiding presumptions. Don't have any presumptions before starting or in any process, in any stage of your research. Don't have any kind of presumptions. Thank you for listening patiently. And if you have any doubt, you can reach me.
Thank you, sir.
So, thank you.
Sir, it was truly an enlightening session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now it's time to propose vote of thanks. Over to Raji ma'am.
A very warm good morning to all the participants, like faculty, research scholars and students for this webinar. It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks to express my gratitude to our secretary, Dr. K. Ratnam sir, and our director, Durai Ratnam sir, for this incessant support and encouragement. Next, I wish to express my sincere thanks to our principal, Dr. Bala Gurusamy sir, for giving us an opportunity to organize this webinar. I extend my special thanks to Markandayan sir, Academic Director, Dr. R. Chakravarti sir, Vice Principal, Dr. U. Nadarajan sir, Vice Principal SSC, who always rendered their marvelous support. On behalf of the English department, I extend a very hearty vote of thanks to the resource person who blessed us with his valuable points on research ethics and methodology. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation to Dr. Kaviarasu for his fantabulous speech. I would like to extend a special thanks to him for inspiring us with his innovative ideas regarding research methodology. As no program can become successful with a single person, I extend my grateful thanks to all the participants for their active participation in this webinar. Nearly 500 participants participated through Zoom and more than 1,000 participants viewed on FB. So I extend my heartfelt thanks to all the good souls for making this event successful with your contribution. Without technology, this kind of webinar is not possible. So I convey thanks from the bottom of my heart to our technical support team. Thank you all for spending your valuable time for us.